Okay, I'm here. Hello, guys. Thank you so much for being here in Monday in 9:31 p.m. People who right now is aware right now is because we have a lot of energy, no, to share that. And well, more important is know information about Mexican migration law. And today I got an update about this area. Yes, because this area is my work is the most interesting for me, or because almost I finished my degree law. And however, well, and this one maybe is you know nothing about it. Maybe these announces will be the most good news for you because a lot of people when the early program, that famous program who give a lot residency to foreigners people for lowers requirements and they got residency. Well, you know it this year and that program is finished, is over, and a lot of people, uh, became sad for it, yes, because it's more difficult for certain foreigners apply for residency here in my country, here in Mexico. More because, in financial solvency is the most and biggest challenge, yes, for those foreigners. But that announcement for SRE, Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, Secretary Affair. I don't know he is the correct pronunciation in English, but Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, who is the top leader about who handle control the Mexican consulate and who those institute or those official and institute Mexican consulate speed Mexican visas for any foreigners outside to my country, and they need to follow um, a new rule. Yes, well, I'm gonna break down that good news. And but well, guys, that situation for when the early program uh, it was over, and a lot foreigners became sad for it. And solvency financial depend for temporary, depend for permanent residency for financial solvency is high requirement. High, you need to have a good um, savings, or you need to make each 6 months and good econs. Yes, that is the point. And but well, that vary between get your residency with this category for solvency. It was the most difficult for anyone. But this Friday, this last Friday, in July 25, appear in the famous how to say that and that famous, yes, Federal Official Gazette is a famous um, platform for in my country who the government and sometimes published new rules and news requirements about the law, the Mexican law. Yes, the system law here in my country. Well, this Friday, Secretaría de Gobernación, or government secretary, and here in my country, who is the boss for the Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, SRE, and put mandatory and follow these new um, rules for Mexican consulate. Yes, such Mexican consulate, then INM, Instituto Nacional de Migración. Okay, what is those famous announcement? Okay, let me show you my screen. Sorry. Well, you see the first and the first announcement. In a second, I'm going to do. Voila. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. Today, this day was longer day for me because I speak a lot with clients, and I recorded an interesting video today. I'm gonna upload. I will upload that video in this Sunday. Is explaining about the famous bureaucracy here in Mérida, and helping some clients, and because those clients they got today their plate and circulation card, those things who is very necessary if you want to drive legally here in my country. It was more legally here in Yucatan because Yucatan is an state because we live in I live in Mérida, yes, and Mérida, according to my video who I shared with you before about cons and pros, and Mérida or Yucatan is the most bureaucracy state who is sometimes is difficult handle process, yes, but well I explained you certain points and certain experience about that video. It was so interesting for you in this Sunday. Okay, I do the best, of course, because and you need to understand in SSP, Secretaría de Seguridad Pública in Spanish. It's not easy recording a video inside, but well, I explain certain things outside about that institute. Okay, but well, that is finished. Today is this topic. New announcement for Mexican migration in residency. Okay. What is the first news? Yes. You need to understand that if you want to get any residency here in my country, remember residency in Mexico, you are able to get or temporary residency or permanent residency. Yes, depend your circumstance. Categories uh, are those options whom Mexico give you, and how you can get a residency. Maybe for family you need, maybe because any Mexican company give you an offer about work here in my country, and maybe because of for financial solvency, that is another category, and between another kinds of and category who done or what explain in other streaming. Yes, old streaming you are able to find those topic about categories get your residency here in Mexico. Okay, but this is the main this is the main category who is more mm, benefit about these new rules because, for example, in my country it exists two ways about economics. Yes, for example, minimum wage is that salary, common salary for Mexican people. Every fortnight, a month, Mexican people about their work, they receive a salary. Yes, that is the minimum wage. And the point here is in October 10, in 2014, in Federal Official Gazette, um, in that rules or lineamientos in Spanish had certain requirements for this category. Yes, for financial solvency. The main um, word or the keyword about these rules, it was any people who wants to apply for financial solvency need to fall in minimum wage about Mexico. Okay, you need to multiply, or maybe I hope you understand that you need to multiply and minimum wage um, plus your currency eh, and days. But well, I'm gonna show you that formula and more more ahead, and because it's important for me be clear in this point, okay? And you need to understand, and it's interesting for me use this language. Will be more easy for me to speak this um, topic in in my mother language, but well, English is important for me because I know it's difficult for foreigners, people who they don't understand anything in Spanish, know the information. Yes, because this information is in Spanish. You are able to read, you are able to listen, you are able to speak Spanish, and maybe it's more easy for you to read that new rules. Yes, but if not, I'm gonna give you very short explain the meaningful change about those rules. Okay, minimum wage. It was that keyword for any people or any foreigners who they wanted to apply for financial solvency. Yes, but in July 25, in 2020, and in 2025, and in the same Federal Official Gazette. What do you mean Federal Official Gazette? I told you, this platform is important here in my country. Any published and put in this Federal Official Gazette, any institute, any government, federal, municipal, state, need to follow that rule. Yes, because it's mandatory in all my country. Any new rule, law, and between another kinds of information. Okay, but well, in this Federal Official Gazette um, announcement, these new rules about this category, financial solvency. Nowadays, people who they want to apply for financial solvency, they fall in UMAS. What do you mean that? Unidad de Medida y Actualización. And unit of measure, unit of measure, something like this in Spanish, okay, in English, sorry, but in Spanish is Unidad de Medida y Actualización, UMAS, and is more lower, and this category, yes, this category is very common for Mexican people because, for example, here you have a penalty and here you need to pay fees, here you have I don't know, and credit hypothec, yes, credit hypothec, and all those fees or penalties you need to pay in this category in UMAS, yes, because it's more lower. Imagine that if you pay those options in minimum wage, believe me, for Mexican people would be completely difficult to pay that. Yes, and fees because maybe you don't respect the traffic light when you drive in your car. Yes, well, imagine that that was crazy, completely crazy for all the Mexican people pay that fees just because the minimum wage for Mexican people is not enough. It's not enough. It's completely lower for another countries, and but well, minimum wage is you amount that minimum wage but per days accumulate days that situation and would be completely difficult for Mexican people to pay. Okay, that is the point. But well, what do you mean that, guys? This update in July 25, yes. Okay, remove minimum wage because you need to understand minimum wage then you must any year starting growth, yes, raising any years. Minimum wage between more raise, more difficult is applied for financial solvency. Yes, you need to understand. Imagine that if in 2024, for any foreigners and people who apply in that year, maybe the minimum wage for temporary for 6 months, and they apply it by 3,000 US dollar. Okay, but in 2015 and raise the average to apply for financial solvency. Maybe it's not 3,000 US dollar. Maybe it's 4,000 US dollar. But any year, the minimum wage um, were raising. It was the same for the average that you need to have for apply for financial solvency. Okay, that option and that keyboard for the last rule is removed right now. Now any financial solvency is applied for UMAS, yes, but you need to keep in mind this. What is the difference? Okay, guys. Okay, Luis. I understand the UMAS is lower. The minimum wage is sometimes it's difficult apply for financial solvency. But tell me, Luis, what is the biggest difference? Why is benefit for me know this information, know this update? Okay, this is the difference, guys. I told you every year those options raising, but the raising are different. For example, in minimum wage, the raise is 12%. 12%, yes. In humans, it's 3 or 5%. Slower. What do you mean that in the average for financial solvency? For example, I am John, I want to apply for temporary residency via 6 months because I have an job and a remotely job, and I would like to work in Mexico, of course, but I want to apply for this category for financial solvency. Okay, tell me what is the biggest benefits about it. Look at this. What do you mean that the minimum wage right now in 2025 is 278 dot 18. Okay, that is the wage, the salary every day for Mexican people. In UMass, is completely different because it's more lower. It's 13.14. The point is this one. The change that. The older rule, the older rule about um, before the update, it was this. If you want to apply for temporary residency for by 6 months, you need to prove this average of this financial solvency. Okay, 300 days for minimum wage equal. I'm going to say you in US dollar. Okay, is 4,456. The you know it, yes. You know your number in your language. Okay, it was the average that you need to have in your bank account if you want to apply for 6 months and obtain a temporary residency. Yes, in the old rules. In the new rules, it's more interesting. Why? Because according this new update about obtain your residency by financial solvency, the days of course change is maybe for you is to up. I understand that, but you need to understand the UMAS is lower. But look at this. Look the formula, or look the result about this formula. Okay, in 680 days per, and the UMAS equal in US dollar is 4,100. Do you see that? It's more lower. You save certain dollars. Yes, maybe in this case, $400. You save that. I don't know if this saving is meaningful for you. $400, but honestly make the difference a lot, make the difference a lot for anyone, because imagine that right now for 4,000 and maybe 4,416, this one, the minimum wage, is more difficult for you to apply. Yes, maybe you are able to apply for 4,200 US dollar. More easy for you. Yes, more makes sense for you apply for it in 6 months. That is the difference, guys. Minimum wage and UMAS in 6 months. Now imagine that you want to apply for saving. Yes, you have a good saving in your bank account, and maybe would you like to apply for that option? Yes, look at this in this option. In saving, in 1 year, um, there are biggest difference. Maybe you notice that in minimum wage, of course, you need to make this formula 5,000 days for the minimum wage equal that result. Yes, but your result in US dollar is 74,000. Do you see that? In UMAS is more. achievable, and more easy to reach that goal. Yes, more easy for you to apply for temporary well, in this case is for um, oh, give me a second. I don't want to give you the wrong information because I don't want it. Yes, this amount is for temporary residency. Okay, this is for temporary residency. This is an average, guys. You need to understand any Mexican consulate, they have their own criteria about the financial solvency. Certain Mexican consulate is high and others is lower. Depend on where you live. Okay, you need to ask your close Mexican consulate. But this is the interesting news for foreigners who they want to apply for residency here in my country. Because I told you in the beginning, when the early program was over, a lot foreigners coming in different groups, expats group. Right now, it is difficult for me to apply for financial solvency. Is my only option for me to apply for residency in Mexico because I don't have someone, I don't have a husband or wife Mexican or any residency who live in Mexico. I don't have that category, just for family unique. And I don't have an offer about work in Mexico. I don't have another option to apply for because I would like to obtain a residence in Mexico. But the financial solvency is completely insane because it's high. In my in my Mexican consulate is completely high. Apply to financial solvency. Okay? That way I show you the good news. This new update for Mexican migration for residencies is more interesting. It's more worthy for you to apply for this category for UMAS. Now, according to the DOF, the change must take effect within 15 days of their publication. I told you. These new rules, it was published in July 25. You need to wait 15 days. And these new rules is mandatory to apply. Yes, but you need to understand something. Maybe in 50 days, after 60 days, all the Mexican consulate follow that new rules. Yes, about this and category financial solvency apply in UMAS. Yes, but maybe certain Mexican consulates not. I don't know. Is a suggestion in my case because for any Mexican people or lawyers, people who study this area know when something is published in the Federal Official Gazette, it's mandatory to follow that new rules. But you need to you need to read the end about that published, because in the end explain more details. And for example, these new rules is applied within 3 days or within next year or anything. Yes, but when that rules starting make effect for any process, you need to follow the new rules. Okay, and very well. All depend for Mexican consulates nowadays, because maybe for criteria they con- they continue apply for minimum wage. I don't know. I don't think so, because they need to follow that mandatory rules. That anything happen is not always is easy to handle. Certain Mexican consulate, because is an outside to my country. Imagine that when the institute is inside my country, for example, here in Mérida, certain institute who is federal, who need to follow the rules about the requirements federals. Every state have their own criteria in obtain due process. Yes, for example, in SSP here in Merida, they have their own criteria. SSP, Secretaría de Seguridad Pública, exists in all my country, but any SSP have their own criteria. Yes, or maybe in this case, Mexican consulate, all the Mexican consulate apply these new rules in 2026. Yes, because it's near, it's completely near this new year, and maybe no certain Mexican consulate apply the new rules, but not all the Mexican consulates. Okay, I don't know. This is a suggestion. What is the another new rules about this update? The new rules is this one: certain process is more easy or reduce the resolutions. Yes, because maybe you need to wait 50 days, or maybe you need to wait 20 business days. It all depends about what is your process. But according these new rules, in 10 business days, you are able to get a quickly resolution for immigration documents or anything about this process. Yes, and for example, forget your temporary residency here in my country, because these rules and new rules is for INM, INM in Migration National Institute, or Instituto Nacional de Migración in español, and need to follow this rule. Okay, any process you need to finish in 10 business days. But I don't know. I have my doubt in this point, because a crowd of foreigners nowadays um, wait for appointment. Yes, and I don't know in the real life how INM handle these new rules. Yes, maybe it's little by little, but that is the point. In 10 business days, you need to finish your process, your Mexican immigration process. Okay, and it will another thinning process, who is change your nationality or change your address or to another kinds of obligation than any resident need to do when they live here in Mexico. And well, is nowadays the INM need to finish those process in 3 business days, no more. Yes, that is according the about the new rules. The last one is this one: electronic visa because this topic I explained you in old streaming. What is those countries who they need a Mexican visa to enter here in my country? For example, it's not the same for an U.S. citizen trip to Mexico as tourists because they don't need a Mexican visa to travel here in my country as tourists. Yes, China people they need a Mexican visa if they want to trip here in Mexico as a tourist. Yes, for those countries who they uh, need a visa right now, it's more easy for those people, for those foreigners, obtain Mexican visa as a tourist via electronic. Yes, they don't need to go to the Mexican consulate. Right now, you are able to get that electronic visa in your phone, and only you need to connect in the right website, official website, and make that process digital, upload your documents digital. Well, that another countries, yes, it's no news for my country. Oh well, for in the world, yes, because certain countries make that way, but nowadays in my country isn't new rules for those countries who they need Mexican visa because they need that as a tourist. Okay, guys, they were all those um, new rules, or maybe the more meaningful new rules could in this I'm going to show you that um, Federal Official Gazette apply in my country. Yes, for example, this is the platform in my country. You right now living in my country and put on Google Diario Oficial de la Federación, is in Spanish, and trying to find this date. Yes, when you look at this, for example, I'm gonna show you in the beginning. You need to know that new rules. Yes, because maybe you are able to understand Spanish, maybe you are able to read in Spanish, and you need to see in your own scheme what is the new rules. Yes, okay. For example, this is the home about this official website. How you can find that new rules? And for example, I told you that new rules they were published published in July 25. This is the schedule or the calendar. Okay, you need to put July because appear all the month in 2025 because it's the year right now, and you need to put Friday B in español, but this one mean viernes in español. Viernes in English is Friday. Okay, you need to put 25. When you put this one, and after appear all those new rules that nowadays those institute Secretaría de Hacienda y Crédito Público have new rules, and for example, Secretaría de Medio Ambiente and have new rules. Do you see that? Those institutes have new rules. Yes, any people who working in areas about lawyers or anything, or people who working in those institute need to follow those new rules. Okay. In this case, we are in 20 July, in July 25. What is that new rules? For example, is this one. Secretaría de Gobernación, I don't know how to translate that in English correctly, but Secretaría de Gobernación is the top um, leader who handle the Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, Affairs Secretary, and who that institute control Mexican consulates. Okay. In addition, Secretaría de Gobernación control INM, Instituto Nacional de Migración, Migration National Institute. Okay. You are able to see those new publication. The first, it's about Mexican consulates. Yes, because explaining about relaciones exteriores is affair foreigners, affair foreigners. Okay, and the second explaining about Mexican National Migration Institute. Okay, that is the second explaining about it. When you give click in any roles, in Spanish is lineamientos generales. I don't know, general rules by expedition for visas who give them a secretary, secretarías de gobernación. I told you I don't know how to translate that in English. Affair foreigners. Okay, all the information is in Spanish, guys. However, you are able to read in Spanish, go on to read all. It's important for you get information. Yes, it's important for you. Remember, if you hire a facilitator, and my recommendation for you is good, believe and trust in your facilitator, but in addition, you need to get information. Okay, it's important for you because maybe your facilitator forget something and you know that information, you make a good team with your facilitator. But sometimes there are people who they are not facilitators and they only rely on people like foreigners, and well, when you have the information it's more easy for you. Don't fall in those categories for fake facilitators. Okay, but well, this is the rules, the new rules. And to be honest with you, doesn't change a lot in the process because trámites or procedures is the same like the old rules. Okay, but the biggest change in my case for me it was the UMAS because nowadays you are able to apply for UMA. Look at this, appear that UMAS. Maybe this one, UMAS, UMA. I told you it's more lower. It's more lower. It's more achievable for foreigners to apply for residency here in Mexico. Honestly, when I read all this information, I was thinking, oh, I've been thinking, wow, this is a good news for any foreigners who they want to apply for residency here in my country. No matter what, in which category they want to apply, temporary or permanent. But they have a good news. They have a more um, easy in apply for solvency. Okay, but well, guys, that's it. The Federal Official Gazette here in my country. Here you want to I told you, here you want to know more about those new rules. Please remember in Friday, 25 July in 2025. And well, the top, the first points, you are able to read those new rules. Okay, guys? But well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watch this video. And if you have any doubt, any comments, and any question, please put those questions in the comments. I'm gonna respond you those questions. Okay. But well, guys, again, thank you so much. I hope this information is completely useful for you. Don't forget to subscribe in this channel. Remember, this channel is very interesting because it's playing for Mexican migration and for Mérida because this is the city who I live in right now. And it was Mexican culture. Why? Mexican culture. The most important here is any experience is completely different because my perspective is completely different than foreigners. Because when you see certain videos for foreigners who they explain how is living in Mexico, they have their own perspective. But when you ask a Mexican, for example, the perspective is more different, is more complete different. Yes, because we live in here, we born here, we have what is the correct way. Who sometimes residents, foreigners, they don't understand. Yes, but well, is my intention in this channel. Explain you that like a local Mexican guy. Okay, well, thank you so much. Nos vemos pronto. Bye bye.